Let's get this train on the road. Yo, welcome to The World is My Burrito, aka Twimby, a podcast where I disappear for a while, then return as definitely the same person, providing you with the same content at the same regularly scheduled time. This episode is being recorded on October 22nd, 2025. We're covering the recently released anime, The Summer Hikaru Died. As always, I am your host, Corey T, descended from the mountain. Joining me on this episode are the illustrious Phil and Eric from the Wait For It podcast. Boys, how y'all doing tonight?
We are doing well. We're having a crisis about our sexual identity, and one of us is a fake. So we'll find out who it is here this evening.
At the end of the episode.
Yeah. Next time I see Phil, I'm going to be like really grabby.
Put his hand right in my chest. grabs the defibrillator. And it's like, this isn't real.
This is mine.
So dark, so quick. This is what MokumokuRen needs to add to his content.
Should have invited Ryan.
Listen, I thought it was pretty fitting we were doing this in October, but this really should be a February release because this is just pure gay love, man, and I'm here for it. That's great. But yeah, no, I was definitely thinking we were going to be doing more horror stuff. That's not what we're talking about today, I don't think.
No, it's the gayest thing I've seen since Top Gun.
Maybe.
Okay, before we dive into it, though, and for clarification, we are predominantly chatting about the anime, but I would be doing my listeners a disservice if I had not also read everything that is currently out. But for a little bit of kitchen keeping, if you haven't been keeping up with the show, I covered all the episodes of Alien Earth with Zach and Mike from the Neat Cast and Jose from Cinema Villains showing up in the final episode. And then I've got an upcoming horror episode that is going to have all kinds of special guests. More on that when the episode releases. Now, onto our topic. The synopsis, if you haven't heard of this, is 6 months ago, Hikaru vanished for a week. Now, as his best friend Yoshiki senses something amiss and confronts him, the harrowing truth emerges. This is actually my favorite of the synopses I found. I think this is IMDb. All the other ones were multiple paragraphs. And it's like, no, let's get it done with. My hot take on this is a horror / slice of life story. And I'm not going to say that the first season is mind-blowing, but it is very captivating. And actually, Phil and Eric, what would you say if you had like a single sentence? What's your hot take on this first season?
I would say slow burn, worth the journey.
That's so interesting. Because I would say slow burn, but obviously setting up more, so it's like a multi-season commitment, and that's a little tough of a pill to swallow if you're doing a slow burn.
I thought this was one season.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. When we got to the end, I was like, kiss already. Like, that's just where we were at. I was there at the end of episode 1, really. So 12 episodes later, I'm still saying that. I guess that's my hot take. Kiss already.
Oh boy, it keeps going, don't you worry. All right, so the main reason we landed on this topic, why I landed on this topic, is it's very fresh. It just released in, I think, September here in the States, and I'd heard a lot of good about it online, and there's not. So I'll go into some of the varied histories and stats real quick, but there's not a ton because MokumokuRen is a very current artist. But with the world history end of it, or at least current world state of affairs, when it comes to dealing with different sexual preferences, current day Japan sounds about the same as the Japan and Tokyo Godfathers. Keep it to yourself and maybe you won't get ostracized as badly. Especially in a rural area. Honestly, of course, the only stuff that I can read is in English online. Rural Japan sounds identical to rural America. You know, it's Don't talk about it. Don't let anyone catch you. Now for the author's surname is Mokumoku, first name Ren. At least that's how they go by. But their handle, which they explicitly go by, is MokumokuRen. But again, very recent artist whose first work, Period, or Periodo, swept readers away. This was a single, like 5 or 6 page short horror story, which I will link in this episode. You can really pull a lot of the elements of the Summer Hikaru Died from this as well, but it's a very solid, like 2-sentence horror story worth of a read. As for the manga stats, this is an ongoing title published by Kadokawa Shoten in the web-based monthly magazine Young Ace Up, which began in August 31st of 2021. So it is ongoing. I'll get into the number. The first volume, when it was finally put on a paper, first volume alone sold over $200,000, skyrocketing his popularity, which is why this anime was inevitable. It presently totals 40 chapters, 38 translated into English, 31 of those collected in 7 English tankobon volumes, and 36 of those in 8 Japanese volumes. All right, that's really kind of it. So we're going to go straight into the topic. Had either of you seen the previews for this on Netflix before or anywhere before this released?
Yeah, no, I've seen stuff about it only because we're in the convention scene, and me and Phil have talked about this a couple different times. I was seeing a lot of art being done for this particular series. So I actually had seen the trailer. It was interesting that, this is only subbed, but the trailer that's on Netflix now is in English. So there's no announcement, it seems like. That was a little interesting. Maybe it's coming soon. But I didn't know that when I had first seen it. I just saw it was in sub only. It was on Netflix. And people were really vibing with it to the point where, again, I'm really seeing it in the local convention scene with a lot of artists. And that's when I typically can tell if a series should be catching my attention. And it definitely did when it first aired. The first couple episodes.
Yeah, I didn't know too much about it until who I keep as far as the Anime Pulse. I obviously keep up with Eric, but also our buddy Ivan, of course, from the also convention scene, artist friend of ours. And whenever he posts something, and I can always tell visually when something catches my eye, and that definitely did whenever he started posting about it. And that's really when I had first learned about it, probably a month or so ago when he had watched through it. When somebody as busy as Ivan takes time to watch something, you're like, okay, well, let's see what he's watching and what this is all about. So that's really all I knew about it. I know Eric had told me he had seen a lot of art, but since I didn't have a huge pulse on it, I didn't really notice it until he had pointed it out.
Yeah, I would say, honestly, I feel like I knew less about it in those regards because I might have seen the characters but not really paid attention to what it was from. There's a lot of stuff that's out there, and honestly, this kind of mostly went under the radar, though recently I haven't been able to watch my normal anime stuff to watch out for videos. But surprising thing, when I did see the trailer, because I watched it on Netflix, just the hover trailer feature that it has, kind of really surprised that the trailer is essentially the first 5 minutes, first couple of minutes of the show. There's absolutely no waiting whatsoever. They just get right into, this kid is, well, he's not himself, and he is taken over by something. What were your thoughts on the, that intro? Was it surprising to see that? How did you feel that it, really, there's no slow going about episode 1. It just gets right into it.
Yeah, I would say the first episode was definitely pretty gripping, just from the intro alone. It's a extremely interesting premise. It's not a premise, at its core that hasn't been done before, but it is one that I always find very interesting at the start, and it really has to do with how does that story unfold. So I was at least at the end of episode 1, because of the beginning and how it started, I was excited to go on that journey and kind of see what this was going to be all about. And it definitely gripped me just from an attention standpoint. It caught my attention very, very quickly. Phil, what about you?
So I knew what was coming because I sat in Barnes & Noble before watching it and read the first few pages of the manga. And I was like, oh, shit, because I just kind of wanted to know like what I was going to get myself into. Because, I mean, we're jumping a little bit ahead first, but like the artwork immediately jumped out. And there's just something about the cover of the first issue as well, the first volume, that's just really interesting. So I opened that up and read the first few pages. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to stop here because I don't want to spoil any more. But I had known what was coming there very early on. Yeah, they just jump right into it, which I enjoy. And like Eric said, it's a really, not necessarily an original concept when it comes to the story, but definitely, I mean, I was pretty gripped from beginning to end.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you there. I think where it ends up going, if y'all decide to continue watching it when more comes out, or reading it if you decide to go sit in Barnes & Noble more, it gets very fascinating. I will say this, I don't think it's much of a spoiler. Everything happens after this. So, like, season 1 is kind of a lead up. Even in the manga, like it's the next volume, because I want to say this was volume 4 is where it ends, and the very next chapter, like after Tanaka has a conversation with the boys, a lot of shit starts going down, but it makes sense because it's the culmination of everything that happens in the season, the Scooby-Doo mystery of it all. But as a coming of age tale, so this is covering so many bases, and it starts covering them so much harder beyond this first season. But where we are right now, we're sitting with these two boys, kind of a coming of age. You have Yoshiki, who very obviously has feelings for Hikaru, and much more so. Phil, you said you read a couple of pages of the manga. The manga is so much more overt than the anime. There's so many more, single pages where there's a lot more stuff standing out. But clearly he has feelings for this 1 year younger Hikaru, who's no longer there, and is now trying to kind of skirt his own sexuality and how to handle a friend dying, but also still being there. There are plenty of other characters in here, but the first arc, even Ren, the creator, said the first arc is kind of solely focused on the two of them. We have Yoshiki, who is still, throughout all of this, unwilling to kind of tell anyone, even tell himself. He doesn't want to acknowledge to himself what he is. Then you have the contrast of Hikaru, who is now no Nuki-sama. Hikaru doesn't know what he is. So you have one character who knows what he is but doesn't want to say it, and another character who doesn't know what he is and is trying to figure that out. Both of them are trying to do this like journey of self-discovery, all the while kind of causing injury to other people. There's plenty of horror to come, but for now, it's mostly clearly the world is a horrific place. Now, how do you feel? And we can start with we'll start with Phil this time. We'll keep bouncing back and forth. How do you feel about the settings? Not solely the characters, because the story is told, not new. But how do you feel about the very rural area, this clearly podunk area of Japan?
Yeah, kind of like what you alluded to as far as like how things are approached and addressed in these towns. It's a town where everything is out in the open. So like when Yoshiki is at the supermarket and the person ringing them up is like, "Hey, your parents fighting again?" Like all that kind of stuff happens at the Piggly Wiggly in South Carolina, where everybody knows what's going on. But then they're not talking about, oh, Yoshiki probably likes boys. Like that's the kind of thing like they keep under the rug. They keep swept under. Like no one wants to talk about that, and it brings a real like lived in element to the town, and I think that's why, like in the long term, as we get a little bit farther away from this probably becomes a really important piece of media for the kid that's in rural Japan, or the kid that's in rural Arkansas who's like not comfortable being themselves. I think this could end up being a very important story, and you're kind of already alluding to that, like with what happens after this season. So, yeah, really, really interesting. It kind of reminds me of like really early Stranger Things. Like that's what made Stranger Things really captivating, was not only the 1980s, 1970s aesthetic, but like, yeah, I grew up in a town like this. I grew up in a small town riding my bikes with my friends, and now they're all 30, and we're gonna wait for Millie Bobby Brown to hold her hand out eating a box of waffles. So, they got that good. It was good in the beginning, but hopefully this sticks the landing better than Stranger Things. There you go, Eric Horror.
I guess you're the biggest Stranger Things fan that I know.
Favorite show.
You do love that show. With this particular show, I like the simplicity of the location. I think with this genre, that also helps. It kind of adds a little bit of a unsettledness to what's happening and what's going on in this particular area. I think, for something like this, I don't expect it to be too big and grand. A lot of the backdrops don't really involve a lot of people. And I think the scenery is kind of a benefit. This show is a very good-looking show in many, many aspects. So I think the scenery, because of the location, all of that kind of blends together to be subtly in the background. This is very much a dialogue-heavy and really two-character-focused show. Although they do throw in some other characters, it doesn't feel too overwhelming because of the small-town vibes. So I just think it all kind of works from a narrative and a scenery standpoint for me.
Okay, do you feel like because it's a common trope, and it seems like this is sort of the same in Japan, based on an interview with Ren on like rural horror sounded very similar to American horror, where, I mean, honestly, the easiest way to make something horrific is throw them out in the sticks.
Isolation.
Yeah, isolation, but then also in backwoods areas. You've got Resident Evil 7, you've got Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's so much, hell, even Cabin in the Woods.
It's my favorite.
One of the best, which starts off with the very traditional stopping at a gas station in the middle of nowhere and having to deal with a hick.
That's an interesting dialogue point, an interesting conversation to have, because for me, you're right. It is a common trope. Everything you said is accurate. But I just kind of started thinking none of us are going into the middle of a busy town thinking we're going to run into a supernatural being, right? We're worried about getting stabbed and our wallet stolen, getting hit by a car, what other life events that are happening that we've seen on the internet or we've seen in our vicinity. You know what I mean? Those are the type of things I think in the busy, rumbling cities that you would expect. Where if I think of a cabin in the woods, I'm well, nothing good can happen out there. If there's a lighthouse with nobody in it, I'm going to pass. Phil would go for it, but that's because he's a fucking freak. Me, I'm no thank you.
All that sounded highly entertaining to me. I want to check out all those places.
Yeah, I think it's interesting in the South I feel like Southern horror is much more Cabin of the Woods, and then especially Northeastern horror is shit happens at lighthouses.
A lighthouse.
At and around, yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole lot of that. But again, a very rural area. And I have done enough traveling around the States. One of my quotes is, everywhere's got a South. And even up in Maine, they have got a South, buddy.
It's panhandle behavior, man.
Yeah, there is something about it. So it's something that's missing from the anime, but it's worth positing right now. There is a brief interaction where in the manga, and it's in this part of the arc. I don't know why they didn't really do that. Maybe they did, but it was smaller. Anyways, they're kind of doing a Beauty and the Beast story. Hikaru's reading it, and it is truly just a Beauty and the Beast thing, but the Beast doesn't end up changing, and the Beast just has to learn to live like a human. Obviously, this is a 1-to-1 of kind of what's happening right now. But the Beast used to eat humans and now realizes that it likes chicken, and the two boys kind of have a conversation on like, should the Beast be made more human? It's kind of like a disservice to the Beast, as opposed to letting the Beast just live as it always did in the past, instead of trying to humanize it. At least for where we are right now, how do you feel like Yoshiki is handling the character of Hikaru, who is not Hikaru? Like, what would you do in a scenario where someone returns and they're not them, and they're not even human?
Well, the first answer was he wasn't dealing with it, because it took him 6 months to bring it up. And I think that is... I found Yoshiki's like just kind of flip-flopping, and I think this is something that maybe some people didn't like, is like his kind of going back and forth between fear and being, but then clinging on to this new Hikaru. And I found it just very grounded and realistic to like an actual teenager. Like, we, especially around that time, we're trying to find value in people, and the people that are in our lives in that moment are everything to us. And he is like, well, this Hikaru is better than not having one at all. And even though he is terrified of, it's keeping him up at night, similar to like how I feel thinking about Eric. It's those types of things just can really sit with somebody, and obviously it did. So he's really not dealing with it, and that's part of it, and that's obviously not a very healthy choice for him.
Okay, well, I don't know what I did to deserve that. That was kind of crazy. Corey, if you could maybe just start like entering in clips. I want that clip from Marriage Story where Adam Driver's like, "Every day I wish you were dead." Anyway,
and I haven't seen marking the clip.
If you don't mind, and if you could just put me side by side, we gave you Sid from Ice Age. Give me Adam Driver from Marriage Story. But the one thing that I thought this might be the most interesting aspect of the show for me personally was the fact that there was this discussion of grief happening both internally, between characters, even between the two of them, on he never really got to grieve him. So like at the beginning, there's such a tear in emotions of like, do I allow this to happen? Do I do something about it? Do I just keep going on? I felt it was a natural progression all the way to the end, and the way that he kind of makes that declarative statement at the end of how he now feels. I think I don't think he felt like that at the beginning. I think he really was progressively getting there. And it has a lot to do with the grief that you have to deal with losing a loved one. Like, if you did lose somebody that you considered to be very close to, you had love for, and you could get 30% of them back. How many of us are not making that deal? You know what I mean? Just out of pure grief alone. Even if it's not logical, even if there are consequences and it could lead to the hurt of other people, like, just think of that. And I think that's what happened to me. I thought of that myself. If I was in that person's shoes, what would I do? And that's ultimately where I landed was, like, if I lost somebody that I had deep care for, and I could say I could get a piece of them back at the very least, that's what made this dynamic between them extremely interesting. It wasn't just a fish out of water kind of taking over the body type thing. This thing had memories of this actual person who lived a life, and that's not something you can just ignore, and it's not something you could just easily kind of throw to the wayside either.
Yeah, it is, because that does bring up one of the things that I will bring up later, because him having the memories is spot on for the Swamp Man discussion, which, I mean, I guess now's as good a time as any, like, before, because I want to try to open this up a little bit more to more of what's happening outside of the boys. But the Swamp Man discussion, Ren acknowledges that this is from the 1987 thought experiment. Well, yeah, so it's a 1987 thought experiment proposed by Donald Davidson. And one of the weirdest things about this, and this being, a swamp man, this thought experiment came about 3 years after Alan Moore's Saga of the Swamp Thing, or Swamp Thing number 21, which is almost identical in context. There's a doctor who's talking about the Swamp Thing and is essentially proposing, because the Swamp Thing, he's asking the same question. Like, is this the same guy? Granted, the Swamp Thing, the difference is it does not look like a man anymore. But there was a man that died and entered into a swamp and returned as a beast that has all of this man's memories and now thinks it is this man, but clearly it's not. So I really like the topic there. They continue on with this throughout the remainder. What is it, like 38 chapters are fan translated online, and it is still kind of an ongoing part. One of the things I think it would probably be the episode immediately after, first episode of season 2, Yoshiki straight up says, because he realizes that the only reason he's trying to help Hikaru do anything is because he's trying to cope with himself. It's almost like he is kind of trying to help, but as a child, as a teenager that still has not admitted any of this to yourself, admitting what you are, who you are to yourself. He's like, yeah, okay, if I just help this non-Hikaru, I'm just using it to cover up, to continue avoiding acknowledging anything and still riding this wave of a person who does not exist anymore. But as this expands outwards, there's so much minutia in this, but it's not mentioned. I think only his family is only given one individual line apiece. So we already know kind of the brokenness of Yoshiki and Hikaru. Now, Yoshiki's mom is from Tokyo. She is the fish out of water. This is it's a Hallmark story, though nothing is really going well. But the mom is from Tokyo, who somehow ends up in this small town with a dad who's just a laborer. They don't really talk anymore, and then they have a daughter who does not go to school. So we have this starting broken home, and Hikaru obviously comes from something resembling a broken home because everyone's fucking dead except him, and he's dead too. But, the memories of Hikaru remember everyone else being dead. And then we have, so far, just in this one, we have a town that has some type of a sin that is being hidden. All the sacrifices, they do mention the other villages, each one of them having their own sacrifices, body parts rendered asunder, chest and legs going into the chest and leg villages, but no skulls being in the village of heads. So with the world building we get, so outside of the independent characters, how do you feel so far about the world that they're in? Because there is an overarching mystery that's happening. Eric, if you want to start us this time.
Yeah. For me, it was one of those things where everything kind of felt, until they got pushed to the forefront, it very much felt in the background on purpose. Like, we were trying to lift up these two characters and this centralized conflict between them. So whenever we brought in some of those extra characters, I'll be honest, it was hard to, really grasp how much I wanted to invest my attention or time to it. And they just kind of came and went in a lot of ways. I never felt like there was an overarching situation that kind of had to deal with that main conflict. So for me, at the very least, this is one of the, I guess you would say, cons or negative experiences that I had with the show, because I really wanted to get immersed in the world. But even from the lore of the impurities and all of this stuff, it was a lot of dialogue getting thrown at you. So for me, maybe it's a low attention span thing, and this is actually the interesting part for me. I have TikTok brain, right? So I gotta watch TikTok on double speed. I gotta watch it on double speed. It's been something that's been progressively getting worse. I've never wanted to put an anime or any show on anything other than 1x speed. I'm gonna tell you right now, I bumped that up. About halfway through the series, I had to bump that up to like a 1.25 because I was like, we got to get moving. And you know when I felt that the most was when we weren't with the two central characters. So that's, again, to kind of tie it all together, how I felt. I really wanted to make those connections, but it just wasn't something that resonated with me personally. Phil, I have no clue if you feel the same, but maybe I'm in the minority here.
Yes, I mean, I think just the sitting in the question is about the world building, so we'll go to that as far as expanding this circle and kind of. I really enjoyed just seeing how Hikaru interacted with of course his classmates, but also interacting with school in general. Like everybody else there probably despises being there, wants to go do their own thing, but of course he's experiencing this essentially for the first time, and he's being around being around these people for the first time, and also being in a school play or recital for the first time. Like I remember being forced to do those when I was in elementary school. It's the last thing I wanted to do, but he's like, this is all brand new. Like, oh, I want to I want to explore everything. I want to read this book. I want to do all of this, and all of that really assisted in really selling the fact, like, yeah, this is basically like a newborn. We're seeing the world through the eyes of this brand new person who is experiencing all this. Even though I have memories of the gist of what it is, it really is the first time that Hikaru is seeing any of this. And then in terms of one thing that really gripped me was when they go through that first cut through the forest, and they see that first entity there, and it just made me want to spend more time in the forest. They kept alluding to it, like, there's something up there in the woods, and we really don't ever go back. I was like, show me the woods. I want to see what's happening in the woods. I want to see what more is out there and what's coming out of there. And of course, we kind of focus more on what has already showed up in town, and it just makes that a lot more interesting. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier, is like these rural settings, specifically the woods. I think that's one thing I don't really have an interest in exploring, is going into the woods, and that's not something that I want to do. So that just made it a lot more unsettling, and really set the stage for the darker stuff in the mythology that was going to be coming down the line. So early on, I think as far as I didn't necessarily have a problem with the additional characters that Eric is talking about. Of course, the two main characters are the most important thing. I would throw in maybe a couple more, but yeah, when we're talking about some of the adults, especially the group that comes in and is trying to figure out what's going on with the town, and some of those other characters and those story beats I wasn't necessarily as interested in. But there's enough going on as far as story wise and sound design wise and setting wise to keep me pretty engaged. I didn't have to speed it up on my end.
Listen, man, I was shocked. I was like, are we doing this? That's what I thought.
Oh man. So a couple of things that were mentioned. One of you commented on the recital, which is a point I forgot to make a note of. The recital barely comes up in the manga, and it is a pretty big focus in the anime. So I'm real interested in what happens there. I know one of the more common modern things is when creators get an anime, they will start changing a lot of things, whether they rethought of a way for something to work, or I don't know. I felt was kind of interesting. As for the slowness, I feel like that is just owned up to it being a slice of life. Because I also went into this expecting it to be more horror, especially with the trailer they give us in the first 3 minutes of episode 1. But it really is a slice of life. Now, as far as all of these side characters go, some of them, their existence is really fascinating. becomes more fascinating, because this part, again, this season sort of finishes up the first arc, which was primarily focused on the two boys, and then what's to come focuses on a lot more of the background and a couple of the specific side characters. Asako, the girl who can hear ghosts, has a lot of play upcoming. Maki, the buzzhead boy, kind of an idiot. He isn't important, but stuff surrounding him is. So they end up doing much more world building. I think there was a question to the artist about the balance, and the artist said that he does have difficulty finding how long you should go between different parts. So, like, because he wants it to be a slice of life, but also a horror. He wants what he has. Is it the best thing? Is it the perfect form of what he wants? We'll figure out when it's done. But I will say to those listening, this really is a slice of life. There's tension, but it still is a slice of life at its core. There is some horrific stuff that comes up, and it is pretty fucking horrific. And Phil, you mentioned about stuff being in the woods and wanting to go spend, more time there. I don't recall if it was mentioned so much now or if they put more focus on that later. But one of the reasons why they don't really go back in the woods is because if you remember the weird creature with the floating head, or the head attached by a string, it's because things are coming down from the mountains.
That's right.
And that's kind of one of the underlying things is their village has always been safe, and all of the sudden stuff's coming down. And I want to say that's a whole. And Eric, you are kind of right about some of the dialogue heavy, because there are a lot of moments where characters do sit. To me, that I was fine with that, because it is generally someone helping the boys uncover what is going on in their village. Because for those who haven't watched this or read this, which is probably going to be plenty of listeners, this is a very old village that had some very weird customs. You end up learning about more. Don't worry. They go to other villages and learn about other weird shit. There's a lot of really fucked up stuff that happens in the manga, or they allude to it. And then Christians took over in the 1700s. Missionaries came in and kind of changed everything. They were like, hey, your shit's really weird, man. Maybe try toning it down a little bit. And so a lot of these whack religious practices these villages had really do start getting toned down. You'll see some of the festival stuff a little bit later. You could see, one of the festivals they had in season 1, but there are more to come. But there's, again, season 1, there is so much set up, and I really hope that when they do season 2, y'all watch it and enjoy more of it. But yeah, that was more just commenting on some of the things that you brought up. So historically, and kind of the overarching theme, part of this blends into things that you haven't yet read or seen, but I think you'll totally understand it. So, as I said, these villages were doing a lot of fucked up stuff. They had a lot of fucked up rituals. People died. Just in season 1, I think he does a pretty solid job of saying that there was some type of a famine or a sickness, and the women were voluntarily taking mercury pills to force abortions. And it's not because they wanted to, it's just because they couldn't. There was no other way to exist in this time period. But this was seen as normal. And Christians came in and changed a lot of their stuff. And it's again, calm that down. Now, around the time that all this weird stuff happened, Nonuki is born. Which, what Nonuki is, even now, we still don't really know. Hard answers. But there are some soft ones. But what I'm very badly getting at is this village all of the villages are full of a lot of sins. Right now we're only in Kubetachi, which is the head village. But they had a lot of weird stuff they did. They had their own sins, and every generation kind of has to deal with that. Some of the great examples that we get, there's a character that has almost no meaning in this current season, but it's one of the three village elders that is talking to Tanaka. He kind of comes from one of those hurt people backgrounds. But there's a lot of fascinating stuff that's about to pop out, and they allude to a lot of it, again, very minimal, by describing the history and all of the practices. But like the Indo was a family that was kind of oppressed by other villagers because of what they allegedly did 300 years ago. So there's a lot of whack strife going on in the background right now that does get expounded upon much more. Something else that neither of you would really be able to pick up on, and one of the ways I don't think this works in anime form, Phil, you would have seen this in written form, but there's a lot of really intelligent wordplay, or maybe not really intelligent, but at least kind of, it's something that can only be done in Japanese. But in English, Phil, when you read those first few pages of the manga, for the first like 3 or 4 times Yoshiki says Hikaru, it's just regular written out as Hikaru. And the moment that he acknowledges Hikaru as something other than the previous human, from that point on in the manga, through all of it, anytime he was referring to the human Hikaru, it's just Hikaru. Anytime he's talking to Hikaru, it's in quotations. In Japanese, they have 3 different writing systems. The kanji for Hikaru is what they use for the actual boy, and then they write it out in one of their other alphabets when they're referring to the creature Hikaru. And there's a couple of other instances where they do stuff like that. Nonuki-sama, I want to say it's the Indo grandfather. When he says Nonuki-sama, it's written out in kanji. And I think it's the village elders. When they say it, it's written out in hiragana. And then when the kids say it, it's written out in katakana, which is generally used for like foreign words or borrowed words. But also it can show sort of a level of respect. So there's a ton of fun stuff that happens in Japanese. It doesn't really... This is just me rambling on about some of the fun trivia. But for viewers, who dig this, if you go read it, there are going to be some fun things even in English where they're really kind of messing around with how they refer to certain characters.
You know what, Corey? I don't really appreciate how you basically said how unintelligent we are, that we can't keep up with all of the extra fun facts. I like fun facts. I like onomatopoeias.
Well,
Why can't I enjoy
Eric
it?
can't read.
So. I can't read. Honestly, I was just hearing the sounds and figuring out my own words. So I probably have a different version of the story than what actually happened.
Well, hearing the sounds, the speech, one of the things that Netflix also does, and Phil, you would also have noticed this, they're in the sticks and they're speaking a very rough, a very rural version of Japanese. The Netflix subtitles don't really show that too well. But I think the first page of the manga does so much more work than the anime. And the written, like I've looked at a couple of pages in Japanese, and it is like, I cannot understand it any way, shape, or form, because it is so vastly different than Tokyo speech Japanese. I don't know what else to really ask. Are you interested in the background enough to continue this? I mean, is this something that you think you'll give season 2 a watch? Because I can't guarantee right now that season 2 of the anime is going to be identical to what we get in the manga. But I can say that there's so much shit that's about to start happening. without getting too far away from the slice of life because it's still there.
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely invested at this point. I'll probably read it, to be honest with you. Again, the art style itself really caught my eye to begin with, even just in the manga. It's this actually happened, and obviously the art styles are different. But Eric, remember when I came across my first Junji Ito book, and I was like, "What's this?" And I bought it at Second and Charles immediately. It was like a similar feeling. So this type of like uncomfortable horror, like I don't do jump scares, I don't do stuff like that, but this kind of horror that really makes you like sit in the uncomfortability, and that's why I really enjoyed a lot of the sound design in this. It makes you just sit and listen to a fan twirling or the cicadas in the background. It makes you sit in that and just be uncomfortable with the characters. So yeah, I'm definitely invested in this, and like I said, I'd go so far as probably to say that I'd probably read ahead. One, because the story is interesting to me, but also I just really, really do enjoy the art style. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn because like I enjoyed my time overall with this. Like if someone asked me about this series, I would speak positively and say like you should check it out. I think what's tough is I do wonder a couple of things just thinking out loud. Number one, I'm not normally a sub or dub guy. I'd be interested how much of the dialogue I would have retained better in English because again, it's so dialogue heavy. And again, you're doing a lot of reading. You're doing a lot of looking at the subtitles. So watching it again in dub is potentially on the table to kind of see, do I experience it differently? I don't know about the whole season, which also brings me to say I would also be interested to check out the manga. I think, Corey, you alluded to it a couple times that there are elements of this that are maybe better suited for reading or for that illustration from the manga. That would be really interesting. And the third aspect of this is the type of series I probably wouldn't have watched on my own without a little push. So thank you for that push, Corey, because there are other series like Summertime Rendering, Heavenly Delusion, very different in ways, but also very similar in that supernatural or getting close to horror aspect that also has a mystery to it. And a lot of times how that mystery unfolds is a big selling point. I think this season did so much setup that I could easily see this series not getting back into my queue very quickly when it releases season 2, but will I eventually check it out? That door definitely is still open, but there are a couple of pauses that I'm having, some hesitancy when it comes to guaranteeing that I'll check it out the way that Phil has, which honestly doesn't surprise me because this definitely seemed like Phil's bag. I would have been really shocked if he walked away not liking it. Yeah, that's my thought. Also, they should have kissed.
Yeah, we don't get a kiss in season 2, then never mind. Forget everything I just said.
Exactly. Slice of life my ass.
Oh, man. So to touch on a couple of the points, you mentioned like Phil, you were talking about like the sounds of the cicadas and stuff, the sound design in this, and in the manga visually, I wonder if it's supposed to be seasonally representative, but there are so many points where the insect onomatopoeias are oppressive in and I will say I do think this lends itself better to a manga format than anime. Again, we all agree the anime is beautiful, but there's so many things that are done in the manga to show you someone's state of mind, where sometimes they'll like take words and scrunch them up into someone's silhouette and it just or maybe it's like only within the silhouette of their head. And stuff like that I can relate to because it's like, yeah, you have all of these thoughts running through your head. They don't need to be animated. It's not going to come off the same. But yeah, just the visual onomatopoeias of cicadas, and then down the line there are crickets. But there's other stuff, and it becomes visually oppressive in the manga. One of the fun things they do in the anime that is not in the manga is when people get super hyped, they have their own miniature action onomatopoeia screen which I thought was a very fun difference. That's not something in the manga at all. So I'm interested in what season 2 does visually, and if there's a way that they can find that to make it more unique, because there's a lot of ways. I still think animation is not using, we're in digital animation now, and I feel like most places are still only using it at like 50%. They're like, we know how cell shading was done, and that's exactly how we're going to treat digital, is if they were cells, and we're not going to stir things up. But one of the things in the manga, Maki, the shaved head boy, that I love about him is he's the only character where there's like motion blur in his hair, because he's got a shaved head. His hair's, maybe a quarter of an inch long. And even in reality, it doesn't look like hair. It looks fake when you see that on someone's head. There's this, there's something about that length of hair. I've had it myself. It's the Curious George haircut, and it just doesn't look or feel like real hair. So it's a very fun artistic choice in the manga that of all the characters, when there's just a bunch of people standing around, his is the only one where there's like a little bit of a blur to his hair. But outside of that, yeah, so visually, I know I want to say that the both of y'all, well, yeah, we just talked about it. Y'all like Chainsaw Man, and a lot of the unexplained random stuff that happens. The demons don't seem to make any sense. They have these insane visuals sometimes when things pop up. It is smaller scale, but things to come are very similar to that. Because again, all of these villages were killing people hundreds of years ago, and that is finally coming to a head, and in very weird ways. And in traditional, Japanese style, they're not always explaining what any of this means. For as much dialogue as there will be, there's also plenty of things where they'll like show you something, and no one says anything about it. And it's a single panel thing, and everyone just walks away. And I don't know if it's strictly a cultural thing, an icon that I should recognize. But for me, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? I want to know more about this. Like the fucking astronaut demon in Chainsaw Man. Was it Death Demon is the one that has the astronauts with the upper half and the lower half split in the ground. Yeah. So this is the kind of thing that I really enjoy about a lot of Japanese content. And I know it gets frustrating to some people where stuff is just not explained. But I think if it's done right, it just makes it more fascinating, because there's an expansion of a world where the two impurities that we see in this first season of the Summer Hikaru Died, the one with the broken neck and then the one that's barely attached by a thread, there's no conversation about what they are or where they came from. They just merely exist, and they are impurities. Stuff like that. And then of course, like this astronaut panel, it's like they're going off vibes big time. Like, yo, we gotta, just throw in some vibes here. And one of the things I feel a little bit of a disservice not mentioning this so much sooner, the title of this anime is The Summer Hikaru Died. And in Japanese, Hikaru is obviously a name, but Hikaru is also a word, and the word means light. The word is light. So this is a double entendre where the title of the anime and manga is The Summer Light Died. I feel you were talking about enjoying living in kind of these depressing horror aspects or worlds. It's a thing that really draws me in as well. Seeing that it's like, oh yeah, it's the same kanji for light. Like, yeah, the title of the thing is sad as shit. It's not just the guy, it's this much more grandiose, like the light is going out kind of thing. Yeah, so season 2, I know you want to see him kiss. May or may not happen. There is a lot more stuff to come. Eric, you were talking about hoping to get English dubs might help you a little bit more. And if they do that, I'm really, really hoping that they pick people with Southern drawls. And pick out a couple of them, because from my understanding, even the way that they're written in the properly translated, or at least the officially translated, Hikaru has much more southern intonation than Yoshiki. It's because Yoshiki comes from a household of a Tokyoite and, the rural area. So even though he grew up there, he's not 100% around the ruralness of it. So I would love if they do English. I might even watch it in English if they do southern draws instead of trying to give everyone this kind of
Bryce Papenbrook, all 8 characters. And he's just a Nosuke. Every character a Nosuke.
Yeah, that would... Eric, would you watch that?
I would. You know what? Put him there, and then
Troy Baker.
Go ahead and put in
Southern.
Somebody really big to like play off of. I think it could work. This show did try to be funny at times. I don't know if it was always successful, but there are some humor points, so they would work there.
It's
Patrick Warburton.
Phil, you didn't have to type for that.
Because I was like, what's Kronk's voice actor's name?
Ruining my life.
Oh yeah, Kubitachi's impurity. The impurity of Kubitachi. That impurity.
That impurity. You ain't the real Hikaru, are you?
Hey, Hikaru, come kiss me.
Dude, if he calls him Yoshiki, hey, Yoshiki. Yoshiki and Hikaru.
Let me lay one on you. That'd be great.
Yeah, Tanaka is going to be voiced by Patrick Warburton.
I'm about it, man.
And then after they kiss, Phil, he'll be like, I know it's got an aftertaste. I like it.
I like it. We squeezed the B movie into your podcast. Sorry, Corey.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Already. Yeah. Well, you know what? There's still a couple of other titles y'all haven't managed to put in here just yet.
Phil, throw them all out. Puss in Boots. What
Take
else?
a shot.
Take a shot.
Oh, man. Do you have any other particular thoughts? Or maybe first off, do either of you have any particular questions? Because I am 2 chapters behind because they're not fan scanned and translated yet. But other than that, I am current. So is there anything that...
I mean, you already said that things pick up pretty quickly. So based off what Eric has said as far as his concerns, do you think there is enough there that would... And you know Eric pretty well at this point in terms of like his cadences and his likes and dislikes. Is there something in here that happens that you think that would be worth him checking out? Because Eric's watching a lot of stuff. He's got to catch up on One Piece. He can't be watching the Summer Hikaru Died.
I put a pause on One Piece in the middle of Sky P. I'm not having a great time. I want to go back to it. My Hero's final season's going on. Kaiju number 8 had to catch up to that. There's other series, so yeah, lay it on me. They clearly don't kiss. You're alluding to that. So I would maybe reach for like 1 or 2 good items here out of your goodie bag.
So there is a lot that happens in, because what is it? It's 4 more volumes. And there's a lot that already happens. If they manage to squeeze all of it into a single season, I think you'll enjoy it, because I feel like based on a lot of your, complaints and observances so far, entirely valid. I totally get it, because slice of life can seem long and arduous. The medium Kurebayashi has more of a role. Maki, who just seems like a throwaway character, has more of a role. Asako has a much greater role. The season ends with Tanaka joining the boys on the beach. Anything that you had in mind for what he might say to them in the next episode, season 2, episode 1, he is not going to say to them. I was kind of very surprised, because it's done the exact same way. The volume ends with him appearing, and you're just like, oh, fuck. You don't really know what's going to happen. But yeah, the next season has a bit more history, a bit more lore. it starts tying together a little bit more. The kids are different groups of people are trying to solve what's going on, because Kubitachi's not the only place that's having issues. It just happens to be where season 1 takes place, is in the village of the head. But we end up getting the village of the head and leg in what will probably be the next season. Hikaru almost kills someone. That was pretty fucking insane to read, because that was just sitting in my quiet house. How it happens, and if there's one of the things that they do, there are bits of the dialogue or when someone is monologuing about how things work that really do pay off, because there is something that Tanaka says that it seems dumb and is kind of educating kids, whatever, but it really comes into play. And Hikaru almost kills someone, and again, sitting in a quiet house, and I'm just like, oh shit, when it happens in panel, because you're like, god damn, like he just fucks someone up. But it does explore much more of what's happening. So hopefully the next season, I can't attest to it because I don't know the changes. Again, if you like reading the manga, does go by pretty quickly. I burned through all of it in, I think, 3 days. Yeah, I think season 2 would hopefully get you more interested if they squeeze all of the current stuff into it. If they drag that out to 2 more seasons, like seasons 2 and 3, season 2 will probably be too slow. But it really does start ramping up and moving a lot quicker, to the point where even you don't know how much time has passed, and even characters' parents are like, yo, where the fuck are you? Like, what are you doing right now? I haven't seen you in a while. So it kind of becomes acknowledged. But so yeah, this is a story. Ren openly states that Yoshiki is not supposed to be the hero. Yoshiki is just supposed to be someone that people can relate to. And the story is about Hikaru. While it may focus on other people and the history of this village, he wanted more information about the Beast as a child. He wanted to know what happens after Beauty and the Beast, because he kind of doesn't really care about this. Like, that ending was not enough. It's like, no, where do you go from here after you've had this entire other life and now you're pretending to be something else? Where do you take that? So yeah, it's about Hikaru in its entirety, even though he's not always at the forefront. Yoshiki is not a hero. Yeah, do you have any final thoughts?
The only other thing I would say probably is, I think another reason that I really enjoyed this is because I think there is a version of this that could also be told. I listen to a lot of fictional horror stories on Spotify, like on podcasts, and I got a lot of that from here. Like, obviously those stories focus a lot on sound design, so like a version of this could really work with the correct voice acting, the correct sound design, the correct producer, and would work really, really well. And I kind of realized that as we were talking about it, like, man, this seems like one of those stories that I would hear, because it's not, those stories aren't also like straight up horror, because obviously a jump scare in audio form you have to work a lot harder for. And as we were talking about, I was like, man, this would work really well, of course, if it was done right, in audio format. But yeah, that's all I wanted to mention.
Yeah, and then for me, like, I definitely, I would want to see a lot more of the horror, mystery, and even, you don't have to say romance. I think that is what this is. I think that's teased enough here. We have joked about it, but the relationship between the two, if those aspects advance enough, I don't mind the slice of life stuff as much. 2 of my favorite animes are slice of life animes. They're also romance animes, though. So this is obviously much different because of the horror elements, because of the mystery behind it. But even in those shows like Kaguya-sama Love is War, A Fruits Basket, and a lot of other slice of life shows that I've enjoyed, I enjoy the ones the most that show that natural progression. I don't know if just off of vibes, this show would work for me from a horror aspect if it's going to go mainly slice of life here. So I'd have to see some of those other elements really take a step up, including some of the side characters for me that I mentioned earlier. If I could see an uptick in some of those, I think that would definitely be enough to bring me back. I mean, I put in a whole season already. I did have a good time with it. So I think that could be enough to rope me back in for a second season for sure.
Yeah. I don't think season 2, episode 1 would be the one to rope you in. I think it would be after that, just based on timing.
Eric will watch it at 6 speed and get right through that baby.
Got it. They don't kiss. Got it.
I'm not proud of it. Okay, I'm not proud of it, but I'm letting you know that is something that's specifically for this show. It is a note. Take it or leave it. Make fun of me. That's fine. But it is something that I have to live in my truth. And I literally about the halfway point, I was like, yeah. This is taking a long time, like just dialogue wise, like speed wise, tension building. And the thing that we talked about, like, it has horror elements. I don't really know that this is very scary. Like, it's somewhat disturbing, but like very much to a point. And I think a lot of people have made complaints about that in the anime space when it comes to horror. So I think that just continues to be a struggle point here. I don't know if that's a Western audience issue.
Makes me wonder if maybe they didn't have like full control over marketing.
Maybe not. Yeah, no, because again, this definitely is more slice of life than it is horror, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's more slice of life than horror. It is slice of life where horrific things happen. And it's one of those, I think, if you put a lot of focus on if all of this is just an allegory for, growing up gay, coming of age and realizing who you are, but not being able to admit it. That's kind of the real horror is, having to live in an area like this. Granted, they get out of the allegorical stuff kind of quickly and what's to come. And I think it does sort of tone down on the Yoshiki Hikaru stuff. Because Yoshiki has like a self-realization very quickly. And then it becomes more of the mystery of like, how do we solve this stuff? And again, as they are learning more of the horrific traditions that the villages had. And again, this village that's like, they say it when they're at the festival. Like you hear the one kid that's gay kid, and it's this very like quiet conversation, and these villagers who think that they are better than gay kids, but they have these horrific traditions and horrific things in their own past that they absolutely refuse to acknowledge. And that's kind of where the real horror is like, yeah, we live in that world. We're there right now. So yeah, it's great. It's fun. I'm going to run down a very quick list of pop culture references. I always try to look to see what there is. The only stuff I found, like, in the background and blurry was an image of what I think was Shin-chan. It was either Shin-chan or his dog, and Doraemon, which is a popular Japanese character. If you remember, Kurebayashi's wooden clock is Totoro, which y'all would at least be familiar with that from Studio Ghibli's My Neighbor Totoro. But they're not one-to-one replicas of Totoro and like the little one, but it is absolutely a Ghibli reference. And it's not in this season, it'll be in the next season, but from a character we've already been introduced to. But Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls makes an appearance in his own way in what's to come. That was just literally one of those moments I like turn the page and I see it and I'm like, I know what Bill Cipher looks like, but I need to check to make sure that I'm not crazy that Bill Cipher is in this manga right now. And it's definitely kind of this ode to Bill Cipher for some reason.
I hope they animate him as Gravity Falls.
Really hope they do.
In season 2.
Really hope they do. Because that would be so cool. And yeah, of the things that I learned, as I mentioned earlier, was that Swamp Man, Donald Davidson thought experiment, and how it seems like it is a direct ripoff of Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, a whole thing that he had in there. I will have my resources. There were 2 interviews. I didn't get to everything in them, but they are worth reading. But there's the My Anime News Network interview, which is really good. It's already translated into English. And then the opener, something else that is actually relevant to Chainsaw Man. The opening theme song is done by Vondi, who's the same guy that did the Chainsaw Man opening. And the only Japanese interview I found is Vondi interviewing MokumokuRen. And Vondi, I'll say, right now, do a plug for Vondi because he's one of my favorite current Japanese artists. He's like 22, 23. He's a kid, makes all his own music, makes all his own music videos. Like, he's extremely talented. And I think if you listen to the openings between if you only listen to 2 things, the Chainsaw Man opener and the Summer Hikaru Died opener, you'll get a very good idea of how wide a range of music he makes. But yeah, so we'll do real quick nacho business, because I've got really the rest of all of my month has been watching horror films, doing some light prep for this. But yeah, I've been going to Sunray, watching stuff. They're doing their $45.
Just rub it in, why don't you? Bring up Sunray every time you see us.
I know, every time. Every time I see people from Jacksonville, I just like to remind them that I was just at Sunray recently. But they're doing their normal horror film thing where it's like 5 days a week there's horror films playing there. They're not strictly sticking to the Universal Monsters or old movies. I saw The Vitch last week, and then The Exorcist last night in 35 millimeter. So yeah, I think next week are the 2 movies that I haven't seen: Fright Night and something else, some other movie I haven't seen. Yeah, mostly just been doing movies. Do you guys have any personal stuff that you've been doing or have going on this month?
Well, movies-wise, I watched the new Naked Gun. Does that fit into this episode? The Naked Gun. And
twice now, yes.
And what's the other movie I watched? Just I literally just mentioned Eric. What was it called?
Roses.
The Roses.
The Roses.
Yes, which is another 2025 film. As I try to desperately catch up to Eric and my movie list, I have 26 films to watch in the span of a month and a half to get to 50. So I'm pretty confident I can make it happen. So I'll just have to sacrifice a whole weekend, which will be fine. Actually, now that Jurassic World Evolution 3 is out, one screen, J-Dub 3, other screen movies, I'll get to 50 by next week.
That's insane. No, I also, from a movie standpoint, I mean, we're going to start picking up at the movies a little bit with the Chainsaw Man movie.
Oh, yeah,
I'm excited.
Yeah.
We're seeing that. I'm excited for Predator Badlands. As someone who has not always been the biggest Alien or Predator fan, I enjoyed my time with Alien Romulus last year, and I recently watched Prey. Phil will be doing the same for our Late to the Party series for November, leading up to Badlands, which I'm actually looking forward to. So, yeah, it's going to be a good time. Wicked coming out a month later, or into the next month. So, yeah, it's going to be a really good time at the movies. A couple more, and then there are some that are going to be hitting streaming that I got to check out. Naked Gun is one of them, but also films like Weapons that I did not get to see.
Anaconda.
I also
So good. Oh.
don't interrupt me for Anaconda.
What do you mean?
But I also want to watch One Battle After Another one more time when it's out of the theater. So there are going to be a couple rewatches, a lot of new releases, but a lot of good stuff to watch. And then for us, we're also going to be at InfinityCon Gainesville with your boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's November's a busy month.
16th,
It really
17th,
is.
right?
There's a lot going
15th,
on.
16th,
15th and the
15th,
16th.
16th, that's right.
Yeah. So
looking
we'll be
forward to
doing
that. So yeah, if y'all are local to Florida and got nothing going on mid-November, come see all of us at InfinityCon in Gainesville.
It'll be a fun time.
I realize I think the only other thing that I totally forgot to mention that I am doing for Horror Month, I haven't gotten very far in Amnesia the Bunker because it's scaly. But I also picked up Doom Eternal because it was on sale for like $7, and that is one of the most fun games I've ever played. It's
That's
so
what I did
much
with
fun.
Doom
2016.
Yeah, it was like $3. I was like, well, I can't like not buy that, right? I haven't touched it, but
that game is very fun in its own right. All three of these games are vastly different from the other, because I can tell you that this game is absolutely nothing like 2016. 2016, again, very good game. I love it. I have beat it on every difficulty using the Joy-Cons on the Switch. I replayed the shit out of that game. This one is wild, but it is very fun. Yeah, so that is pretty much it for Nacho Business. Tons of movies. I don't know what I'm going to watch. I haven't seen a whole lot of new stuff just because of the whole Sunray thing. I'm there twice a week.
he did it again. Eric. He did it again. He's doing it right
I did
now.
It, just bringing it
He's
up
doing it
right now.
on purpose, man.
Actively
It's
doing it right
crazy.
now.
But for those who
You
like
can go
Tubi,
watch One Battle After Another. And see that.
at Sunray, I'm going to go watch that
God
at
damn
Sunray.
Never mind. Don't go to the movies the rest of the year. I don't care.
Yeah, I've also been watching the I say I've been watching. I've only watched 3 of the Ringu movies. I don't know if I'm going to watch any more. There's only like 7 in the franchise. So,
Only.
I don't know if I'll finish it because I still have other stuff to do. Anyways, all right. Phil and Eric, y'all have been great. I really appreciate having y'all on here. It is vastly different than being on the receiving end of your podcast. Speaking of which, where can people find your podcast?
You can find it literally anywhere you listen to The World Is My Burrito. You can also find us on Twitch and YouTube if you want some other content. Well, the podcast, the video version is on YouTube, and then we're streaming on Twitch every single week. We're also doing our personal projects. Eric is streaming on his personal page a lot, posting on his page as far as content creation, and then I have a couple of voiceover projects in the works, and then the one that is out and available right now, of course, is The Dome, which is available on YouTube, and I voice Eli Thompson, and then there's some other stuff coming down the pipeline that I'm very excited for. So yeah, the last couple months is going to be, like we like to say, it's when we wind down, but it's like the busiest time of year as far as content goes, so we're excited for that, but I'm also like preemptively tired, so but all that's going to be fine. I mean, Infinity Con's our last show of the year, so we'll have a little bit of time to relax. And I say really a little bit because in January we're going to be in Ocala in like the second weekend of January
For Brick.
It's like the 9th and the 10th.
Yeah. I probably have 2 conventions in January, but you just have the one. It's only going
to be the 3 of us. Everyone else is going to be at like Rally Animate. So like we're going to have the least amount of people at Tony's that we've ever had.
Well, no, so this is where we get a good amount of people this time, and then when they come back, we just morph them together and finally take over.
Add to the group.
Finally take over
Who are
2
we gonna
stations
meet
at Tony's.
between now and then to add to Tony's that we're going to want to actually invite to Tony's? That's a sacred place.
I mean, that's true. That's true. Yeah, but it's like, new year. We're towards the new year, new me. We can meet some people.
We're going to go to Holiday, or we're going to go to Hall Mat this year and do some networking just to take people to Tony's.
Dude,
what's your opinion on hibachi?
How do you like hibachi?
Hibachi.
What if I told you there's a place in Ocala, Florida? There's a special place. It's right next to the Bob Evans.
Bob Evans.
It is next to Bob Evans. Oh man,
it's in between a Hooters and a Sliders grill. Small Sliders.
Oh my god.
Oh man, yeah. So definitely check out the Wait For It podcast. I've been on, I think, 2 this year. I think 2 just this year.
You've been a busy guest.
Yeah, and then we have the end of the year awards coming up, and you're going to submit 16 categories. So you're going to show up again here shortly.
What documentary are you going to pick this year?
Oh man,
Corey played one video game last year and submitted a video game of the year.
hey.
Which I do still have on my wish list.
I've got to combat Phil saying that Jurassic World Evolution 3 is game of the year.
It is.
It's crazy talk, man.
It already
Although
is.
I do have Ghost of Yote sitting in the holster, and I'm pretty sure that's probably going to take the...
Oh yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do all of November. I specifically, I didn't even buy it because I was like, I can't. If I buy it, I'm going to play it, and I can't play it right now.
I bought it and I'm not playing it. That's what I did. It's just sitting.
It's terrible. That's even worse.
It's installed. It's just sitting there. I know. I agree. But yeah,
that's how you get impurities, Phil.
Bring them on.
So yeah,
let's
listen to the Wait For It podcast. Every week they have 4 different types of episodes. So every week is something new where they do interviews with people or reviews about films they haven't seen, video games they're currently playing. So all kinds of pop culture content, and they are one of the other podcasts that are smart enough to include what they're covering in their title. So just look for something that you enjoy, unless it's Studio Ghibli, and click on it, and you're probably going to like it. But
that's
obviously,
yeah, that's what you call.
I love how I just accept the lump in when it's really just Phil. Phil's the main one.
I don't know. Out of the 3 we've watched, you didn't like 2 of them.
I didn't like it strong. The Boy and the Heron, I gave a 3.
Yeah, that means you would never watch it again.
No, a 3. I mean, I wouldn't actively watch it.
I wouldn't not.
The only one we really
good.
both agreed that we didn't like was Porco Rosso. And that hurt because we had to. That was a Patreon request, and
sorry, Briar.
hurt someone's feelings.
If you come across this, sorry.
Yeah, our bad.
I felt so bad. He apologized. I was like, Briar, don't apologize.
He's like, I thought you guys would like it. Sorry.
No, he literally was
you
like,
gave us money. You should ask for a refund, not apologize.
Yeah, we'll give him a month.
We'll
back.
give him a refund. Yeah.
He was our first
an
ever
app at Tony's.
The first ever Weight Watcher. We gotta. Yeah, we owe Briar one.
All right. Well, obviously, you can find me right here, anywhere you listen to podcasts, and social media at Twinbee Podcast, twinbeepodcast@gmail.com, Instagram, Blue Sky. I don't know. Just find places. I've created stuff everywhere. Whether or not I pay attention to it is another story. But yeah, if you have or have not seen The Summer Hikaru Died, if you haven't seen it, go watch it or read it. I might even post a link to like the scanlations, because this is a weird world. This is a digital only manga that's getting released, from what I can tell, parts of it weekly. So it's very cool, very easy to access because of that. But and if you have checked it out, one or the other, send me your thoughts. Send in an email, comment on anything. But Phil and Eric, thanks again for joining. And I still don't have an outro. What do you got? Phil, you're a voice actor.
All right. Well,